Hey guys, my name is Matt Young, and I am a art teacher at a high school in Columbus, Ohio. And I'm here to talk to you about rethinking how you teach AP, or at least that's the title of this presentation. Now, a couple of years ago, I was asked to teach a few things about AP at the National Convention, about how I teach AP in kind of a choice based. Just to give you a little background, I have to teach all the APs in one class due to the smaller class size. So I teach 2D, 3D, as well as some drawing and photography, all in one class period. So I have a kind of a choice-based AP program, but what's great about it is they changed the requirements for AP, so it kind of made me think about reteaching AP all over again. So this is about the process I went through, and hopefully you can gain a little bit of insight on how maybe you would like to revamp your AP program. So here we go. So I came up with the title Rethinking AP, a non-traditional approach, because everything that I have ever attended on how to teach AP is what I would consider traditional AP. In other words, the teachers have a set of these specific assignments like still lifes, self-portraits, landscapes, draw your hands, paintings, just all these things. And not that those aren't meaningful, but they're very specific as to, what the kids should be doing or drawing. And there are very rigorous deadlines. And I see that the quality of work from these students is amazing, but personally, I see the kids doing it I see the same things over and over and over again. So that is what I would consider traditional AP. And in case any of you guys are watching the AP for the first time and you didn't know, the AP courses are designed for students to create a portfolio of work specifically for them. And then these portfolios get judged to see if they get, college credit in whatever it is that they are doing, whether it be drawing or painting or a combination, or sculpture or ceramics, depending on whichever AP they choose. You don't, in my opinion, after reading through all the definitions of what is AP, there was no specific things about teach, and have the students do these specific things. It is supposed to be solely a student-centered approach for the students to record their process and create the best work that they can. So to give you a heads up on what I do, I teach three types of AP. I teach 2D, 3D, and drawing. I teach all three in one class. I don't have that many students. I have them 45 minutes a day, every day, for an entire year. Usually my AP is between 15 to 25 students. And most of my students, I tell them they need to come in during their study halls or spend 45 minutes a day somehow during the day using more class time. They are not allowed to take AP unless they come in with at least 2 of our foundational level classes and 1 intermediate level art class. I do average about 4 to 5 on my scores. Obviously, there have been some that are a little bit lower, but that is currently what most of my students get. So for those of you unfamiliar with the process, the AP Art and Design portfolio consists of 2 sections. The first one is a sustained investigation, and that is 60% of the exam score. You guys will remember this as the breadth. It is 15 pieces, and essentially it is a whole bunch of stuff, and I will talk about exactly what the sustained investigation is here in a minute. It also consists of selected works. That's 40% of the exam score, and this is 5 what you guys would think of as quality pieces. So you will need 15 pieces for your sustained investigation, and you will need a total of 5 quality pieces. So what is sustained investigation? Well, AP says that it is a concept of producing a series of sequential visual forms, growing from one to explore in greater depth a particular visual concern. In easy terms, this is you having the kids experiment with techniques and media and having it relate to their main work, and make sure the kids can document it. Plain and simple, if a kid is going to be doing watercolor painting as a final quality piece, have them experiment with watercolor technique and media, and that is a sustained investigation. If a kid is going to be doing, a painting of for example, the bird that is down there, they can have sketches of birds. That would be a sustained investigation. It doesn't have to be in the final work. It can be related to the work. In other words, I had the students experiment, for example, with some pen and ink techniques, and I have 3D kids. So the kids practice drawing pen and ink stuff on clay. Some of the kids didn't use it, but the fact that it was on clay related to their 3D pieces. So again, as long as they can relate it to their main works and document it, a sustained investigation is really anything that shows a process that relates to their work. Now, the selected works, these are the quality, and AP says that these are the works that best demonstrate the skillful synthesis of materials, processes, and idea by physical works or reproductions of work, depending on what you need to submit, digital images, etc. for AP. And again, this just means quality works. Nothing fancy here, people. You just need to turn in 5 quality works. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about my process and what I think. This is what was successful for me. And so if you guys take little bits and pieces about this, hopefully you will find it helpful and take little pieces out for you guys. But the first thing starts with having a strong foundational and intermediate level of art classes. And this is, I had to bring together my art department and sit down with everyone and say, hey, we are all going to do the same process. So it doesn't matter. We have 2D foundations, which is drawing and painting, 3D foundations, which is ceramics, sculpture, and metals. We have computer graphics, which is Photoshop and Illustrator, and we have photography, which is digital and print. So it doesn't matter what foundational level class they take. Every class teaches strong techniques with some choice in project design. So for example, in my 3D class, I would have a graffiti sculpture that every kid has to do, but every kid has the choice of the type of graffiti sculpture they want to do. We also, at the foundational level, in every class, start talking about the studio habits of the mind, their vocabulary, and design exploration. Even in photography, there are many processes of rules of thirds and planning out your pictures with sketches and digitally before, this whole process of planning your work out before you actually do it is in every single one of our classes. And then finally, at the foundational level, all the students have some sort of guided reflection to their work. So they are asked questions and then they are asked to reflect on them. We've honestly stopped going away from testing and going to this more of a reflective model of students' work. So example, instead of like putting on a test, please tell me what a focal point is. The questions now flip and say, what is the focal point of your work and why is it the focal point? That would be an example of one question. Instead of saying like, again, in foundations in 2D and we teach painting, instead of having a lift up of, watercolors and techniques and true and false and having the vocabulary, we would ask the students a question of explain the process you went about in your painting. In what steps did you add color to your work and why did you put the paint on your work in that order? We want the students to really start thinking about talking about their work and not just answering questions. That leads us to the intermediate level art classes. Again, these start to teach even stronger technique, and now we have a higher level of choice. So, for example, we would do like traditional still life. But we would have the students design and set up the still life. We would talk to them about lighting. Then we would spend a few days on some regular pencil, some colored pencil, maybe even some marker. And so the students would have this higher level of choice about project design and choice of materials for them to actually do their still life drawing. We are also focusing again still on strong studio habits of vocabulary and design, a lot of exploration, a lot of thumbnailing, a lot of stuff in sketchbooks, a lot of pre-planning of work. And now we have a whole bank of questions for the students to reflect on their work. Again, we have gone away from testing, and students are picking questions out like explain the process you went through to, you know, come up with your choice of projects. Why did you choose that type of material? If you were going to name your project, what are you going to title your work? Why did you title it that way? So students have this bank of like 30 questions to choose from, and they are able to then make their reflective choice of their work upon those questions. The next thing you're going to do in your AP class is spend the first week of class on just explaining some things to your students about the depth and breadth of quality. Have them bring in all the work that they can, as much as they can, physically to you. And you're going to talk to them about their concentration, what they like to do, some enduring ideas, and some critical thinking. So you're going to do nothing else the first week but spend some time on these things. You really want to get to know your students. Have them, again, bring in everything. You want to get to know about them and their creative process. Spend the first day talking about critical thinking and enduring ideas, because hopefully in your foundations and intermediate classes, you've been building up to this critical thinking and enduring ideas, this ideas of thinking for themselves. How many of us have heard our teachers, just tell me what to do? We get that all the time. We do not have art at the elementary level for very long. The kids roughly have about 14 days of art a year at the elementary level. So our kids are not used to being asked to think about what type of work they want to make. So we have to build it into them. If any of you guys have never looked up enduring ideas, the enduring ideas is this idea of anchoring kids down into this bigger idea that might have like a stronger meaning to them, so it can connect them to like an idea of their painting, drawing, sculpture, or whatever the case may be. You don't want them like, oh, hey, I want to paint an eye because an eye is pretty cool. You want them to have this connection to whatever they're doing. You want to start building this connection, and many of them, don't really have this connection. So talking to them about the idea of good and evil, life cycles, conflict, spirituality, memories. You and I and everyone watching this video know that you all have kids that could, some of them can really like kick butt and do really, really good art. But why are they doing it? And being a former college athlete, I'm just going to be honest with you. We enter all these different shows, the scholastics and everything else. And some things win and some things don't. And I sat down with some of these judges once and I said, look, seriously, like, what do you guys look for? And they're like, at this level, everyone is a really good artist. But what is the deeper meaning? Can we see this deeper meaning in the work? And so I tell the students that they have to have this idea of deeper meaning. They just can't come to me with, I want to paint my friend, I want to, make a bowl. They have to have this kind of idea, this enduring idea of why they're going to do the work. And we spend a lot of time talking about this over the first day and the first week. The next thing is, and you can get this off of the internet, this is just a poster that's available, is the cheat sheet for critical thinking. So, why are they doing the work? Who's going to benefit from this? Where is this needed most? Where in the world is this a problem? And especially nowadays, with this whole idea of social distancing and the idea, of the race and equality in our society, it is important to talk to our kids about their social and emotional learning and why and how and who they're affecting with this work. So again, I spend the first few days talking about this. I have these posters up in my room so they can see them. And when any kid is starting their project, we spend a whole week talking about why these ideas are important. All right, well, here's where things get a bit kind of weird and crazy. So, um, last year when they made that whole big switch to the sustained investigation and the quality pieces, I made this weird flip to try this thing out called Media Monday and Techniques Tuesdays. And this leads to my students being able to do a 2-week sustained investigation homework that is personalized to each student. So let me talk about this weird Media Monday and Technique Tuesday thing. First off, I want to say that all AP homework should be tailored towards one of two things. Either A, developing ideas for their sustained investigation, or showing some form of skills or technique for their quality piece. Again, this whole idea of sustained investigation. It takes work to come up with the homework, but it goes pretty fast after you get to, again, know what your students need to do. I tell my students they should be doing about 1 to 2 hours worth of homework a week. The sketchbook was and will always be a valuable part of their AP portfolio. And you can see here on the left that this student over here did work as far as photographs and thumbnails towards the final piece. And over here, you can see this student has all these wonderful drawings of these jewelry pieces that they wanted to have done for their project as well. So what do I do? What are Media Mondays and what are Technique Tuesdays, you ask? Well, every other Monday, so for 2 weeks, I sit down and teach the students a, quote, new media. For example, white gel pens on black paper. And again, the great thing about this, remember, I teach 2D, 3D kids, everything in the same thing. No matter what media you teach them, they can use this idea towards their project. The following Tuesday, I will teach them some new technique. For example, how to properly thumbnail sketch. Remember that your technique and media do not have to be new. Sometimes the kids forget and they need to relearn. This gets back to knowing your students and what their needs are. So then the students will have 2 weeks. So the following Thursday to complete a 2-page homework that shows how they use these technique and media within the confines of their selected work. So these media techniques may never make it to the final work, but it will become a part of their sustained investigation. And you can see here, we did this whole weird experimental thing about painting with all kinds of stuff. So painting with tires, and we painted with floor mats, and we stamped with license plates. Anyway, we did this whole bunch of stuff. But the idea is that my kids that were doing paintings had this idea of this new type of painting technique that they could use, even though it may never made it to their painting. My clay and 3D students, they could use this whole idea of kind of, again, stamping and impressions that may never make it to their final work, but could be part of their sustained investigations. And then my photography and computer graphics kid could take, again, this idea of textures and patterns, and they could overlay it in their photography work. So your homework doesn't have to meet every need of the student. It is about how the students take that homework and fit it into their sustained investigation to make it fit their final quality work. I have a 4-week project timeline, and that is just something that I chose. And I'm going to try to talk to you guys a little bit of math, so please try to stick with me on this. During this 4-week timeline, the students will propose a project in front of the class to myself and their peers. So they write it up and they propose what they want to do. And the work is graded at the end of 4 weeks based upon what they do. Now, again, the student has to write it up. I have to agree to it, and their peers have to think it is a relevant and good idea. We do this, to give the idea that, kind of like proposing to your bosses this idea in the future. Students need to be able to validate their work. Back to the whole enduring ideas and critical thinking, students have to say why they're doing the work, and a lot of times their peers will speak up and kind of remind them of this when they say that they are what they're going to do with their projects. So this way, I like doing it that way. Everyone kind of can be accountable for everyone, as well as if I have a student that's very skilled in one area and a student's like, well, I would like to incorporate some of my photography, in painting, the one painting student can help photography and vice versa. It also gets them used to deadlines. On a serious note, kids do need deadlines. It's their choice, their reward, or their problem. They can always rework their projects for a higher grade. Now, here you go. Stick with me here, people. Now, we have 36 weeks in a school year. So if there's 2 weeks for testing and etc., so cut those 2 weeks out of there. There's roughly 34 weeks in a school year where we can get anything done. If you divide those by a 4-week timeline period, that gives you enough time for 8.5-ish projects. Usually you get about 8, but you only need 5 quality pieces to turn in. If you follow this math, you should also be able to complete 16 sustained investigations, and you only need 15. And remember, hopefully your students have come into class with some of this stuff like already done. So this is just the idea of having everything ready to go by the time that March rolls around. Sorry. And, the AP test is going to be coming up, in May, and everything is going to be on the timeline and ready for them to be done. I will say one of the cool things, if you guys haven't done it yet, is the Unsung Hero Project. I will make sure there's a link to it in our teacher resources page here at the end. But if the students are looking for an idea for a project, the Unsung Hero Project is a great way to get your students to focus on some really cool, enduring ideas, as well as winning some money. The girl that did this here actually won $3,000 for her Unsung Hero Project, about the civil rights movement with the girl that she chose. So again, I know that it's math here, but if you guys want to try to follow this timeline, you should be able to get the 5 sustained investigations and the 15 pieces if you follow this math. So your projects are done after 4 weeks. So we have our students do an end of the project class critique. Now again, if you guys have been following me along here in the foundations level, the students have had, the questions kind of directed to them to reflect upon their work. In the intermediate level, the students have had a bank of questions to choose which ones were the best for them. Well, now there is an end of the class critique. And so in this case, they are graded for presenting their work and responding to the work. Hopefully they are comfortable with this, because you built up in your foundations classes this idea about talking about your work. My AP students actually look forward to it. They tend to make it a fun day, depending on when we've had our class. Sometimes they'll make it like a breakfast day or a coffee day or bring in a snack day or, a dress up day. They've had all kinds of different days for it. I use the Art of Education's responses. They have kind of this artist flow work about how, describe your artwork. How did you create your artwork? What was the big idea behind your artwork? What were the goals for the artwork, and what were your overall thoughts? And then I learned this thing back with an elementary thing called 3 stars and a wish as far as responding. And so if you're going to respond to one of the works, again, we don't say things like it's cool and it's neat. We ask them to use real art vocabulary. I like the focal point. Your shading technique was excellent. I like the contrast and the et cetera, et cetera. And they never say anything negatively about the work, but we do want them to be real and say, like, I wish you would have. And so that's where the 3 stars and a wish come from. There is also this great resource from Clara Liu. It's asktheartprofessor.com. She is a great resource. She has a great critiquing thing on there as far as challenges, strategies, and solutions, and a great little video for you to watch about class critiques as well. And finally, I feel one of the keys to kind of rethinking AP is to make sure your students have online portfolios. Now, we actually start our online portfolios in the intermediate classes, but this gives the student this gets the student used to turning in work digitally online, putting it out there for everyone to see and validating their work. So when they go to write about it for the AP test, they have already done this on their own website. So they need to get used to being professional and put their work out there. And what's nice about this is they can take it with them wherever they go and show it to colleges or to friends or to family. It is always out there. It makes them very accountable for their own work. We use Wix. Our students really like it. It's free. It's super easy to use. And there are a gazillion options. I have students that are professional artists now that still have their Wix accounts up and are using them. Weebly is the second most common thing that our students use. I think a lot of other teachers like them to use Weebly. So that's probably our second most common one. Again, it's free, easy to use. And Google Sites are, that's probably the last thing, but some students do use it just because we are a Google school and they are comfortable with it. But again, the idea of getting their work online, getting everything out there, and editing the work, photographing the work, getting it professionally. All this ideas, we have a little studio set up so that the kids can take pictures of their work. And like I said, this is all good practice, for the AP tests, because if they can keep their website up and looking good and they can write about their work on their website, then they will be able to do that when it's time for them to take the AP test. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email me. I'm going to put the link down here at the bottom. centralartblog.blogspot.com is our website, and I will also put my email at the end of this. If you want to click on the QR code, that will take you to our teacher resources page. There is all kinds of resources on there, including the handouts that I use in AP and a copy of the poster and a few other AP items. So again, just look under centralartblog.blogspot.com, look under teacher resources, look for the AP presentation, and you should be able to find all the resources there.
So hopefully you guys have stuck with me through this 25-minute presentation and this virtual thing is working for you. I just want to kind of end with a reminder of however you teach AP, to really consider it from the student's point of view and to really focus on three key things. Number one, make sure that you provide choice for students, because not all students are going to be your painting kids, drawing kids, or whatever. You may have 3D kids. So try to provide choice in your instructions for all of your students to succeed. Number two, try to provide a homework situation where your students are being challenged with multiple materials and media so that they can add to their sustained investigation. However you choose to do that, it will really help out in the end if you can put that into your homeworks. And number three, really try to keep your kids accountable using websites or class critiques or whatever the case may be. Getting your students used to presenting and putting their work out in the world will really get them ready to take the AP test, because they will have been doing this all along, getting their work out there and presenting it to everyone. Enjoy the rest of the online conference, and thank you guys for watching. Again, Matt Young from Pickerington Central, and if you need anything, reach out again, Matt_Young at plsd.us. Bye, guys.